Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Na'aseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of our IGERET TESHUVAH learning from the Tanya. Baruch Hashem, we're up to our fourth installment. Tonight we're going to make an additional comparison between 248 and 365. Which is stronger? The 248 positive commandments or the 365 negative commandments? Before we get started on that, I'd like to give some honorable mentions and dedications to the following people. The following class will be to the Ilun Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rina, Michelle ben Zohara, Aviv ben Vivi, Avraham Yehoshua ben Sultana, Simon ben Alia, Mazal bat Luna, Meir ben Rivka, Sultuna ben Frecha, Bat Frecha should be, Yitzhak ben Tzevia, Yehuda ben Aharon, Brendel bat Meirdov. Did I write it correctly? Meirdov? And to the Ilun Nishmat of Chaim Zevulun Rachmiel ben Esther and Yaakov ben Eva. Also, this class will be to the Refuah Shelema of Chana Rivka bat Shelumit Sheina, and for Yaish ben Sulika and Miriam bat Pesi Penina, and should be to the bracha v'atzlacha and success of our good friend of the class, Yehudit ben Shabbat.
Amen.
That helps out in every way that she can. She sponsors, she brings pizza, she hosts, she learns. There's nothing that this Eshet Chai doesn't do. Hashem ba'ech otach v'sameach otach. Bracha v'atzlacha to you and to yours. Also, I'd like to highlight a very special family, Yael Teppenberg and her family, Leah and Naomi, also Naomi, who sponsored to the Refuah Shlema of Chana Rivka. Hopefully we'll get to see her on Thursday. I'm missing one more. What's the name? Ariel? Ariel, Shashem Barech Otchem, Sameach Otchem, that should health, wealth, happiness, Zivug Hagun, Mishor Shishmatchem, Bazman HaNachon, and the Be'ezrat Hashem, you always be on the side of giving, and may the Torah learning that you learn be a protection to you and to your family, and all the Torah blessings to you and yours. Also, I'd like to dedicate this class to Anonymous, amazing lady, tzadeket nisteret, that she comes, she learns, she supports, and Be'ezrat Hashem that she has health, wealth, bracha v'atzlacha, bsorot tovot, nachat from the children, shno bayit amiti, parnasa b'shefa, briut eitana, and Be'ezrat Hashem that she find nachat and shalom and bracha v'atzlacha for all of her days. Also, for the people that are in attendance, Shashem Barech Otchem, Sameach Otchem, for coming down from wherever you are to come and learn with us here on this Wednesday night. All the Torah blessings to you and to your family. Okay, let's get started. IGERET TESHUVAH, we're going to have to go very slow in order to dissect just a few lines of the Tanya. We are right now involved in the deeper understanding of Teshuvah Deltata. As the Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladi explained to us, the Teshuvah process consists of a dual pathway. Teshuvah Deltata, which is a lower level Teshuvah, and Teshuvah Del Ela, which is a higher level Teshuvah. What is the difference? Teshuvah Deltata is a Teshuvah process on the 248 mitzvot aseh and 365 mitzvot lo aseh. A proper teshuvah process over the 248 positive commandments and the 365 negative commandments. And once you go through that, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, as long as it takes for you to master the teshuvah process over the Ramach and Shisa, mitzvot aseh velo ta'aseh, you're going to graduate to a higher level of teshuvah, which is called this teshuvah del'ela. Teshuvah del'ela, this high level teshuvah, is your focus now is not about rectifying your sins, but rather how are you giving Hashem back your neshama after 120 years in this world. Your focus is to give the neshama back to Kadosh Baruch Hu exactly the way that He gave it to you. So it's a completely different process. So in order to get to that high level of teshuvah, first we have to do teshuvah del tata, and eventually we'll get teshuvah del ela. The whole Igeret Teshuvah deals with explaining the first teshuvah process, which is the teshuvah del tata, later on teshuvah del ela, and then later on how to do both at the same time. So since our focus is teshuvah del tata, the lower level teshuvah, we have to become a little bit better at recognizing what is a mitzvah aseh and what is not what is a mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Because, you know, again, these generic words that we hear, positive commandment and negative commandment, I don't know how one person off the top of their head can tell you, I know which is which, right? You could tell you, okay, give me 10 mitzvot aseh. Maybe you'll be able to give me a few, but I'll tell you, give me 10 mitzvot lo ta'aseh. Maybe you give me like the top 10. But do we really know in depth every single action that we do, which category it goes under? We don't. So we have to familiarize ourselves with which ones they are. And why do we need to know that? Well, if you're going to learn Igeret Teshuvah, you're going to learn that there's a big difference in the Teshuvah process between a sin that you do with a mitzvah aseh and lo ta'aseh. Because the process of rectification, not only is it different, but it's possibly even longer depending on which sin you did. For example, as the first line in Igeret of Teshuvah says, and I'll just read it, we already went over it several times, but it's always good to hear the words of the Rav, to read the words of the Rav, and of course, you know, while we're here, I'll also mention that the reason why we're doing this class is because we're Mekayim the words of the Rav Israel Abegel Shlita, who is the son of Rav Yoram Michael Abergel Zechet Tzadik Livracha, who is the author of the book Betzur Yarom, which is the book that we're learning from, where he actually spoon feeds us piece by piece the Tanya in layman's terms, and Be'ezrat Hashem that the fact that we're learning this this Tanya will also be able to receive all the berachot and all that tzachot, all the yeshot that come with it. The Tanya says in the first line, Perek Aleph Tanya, Besof Yoma, Shlosha Chilukei Kapara Hem, V'teshuvah Im Kol Echad. It lets us know there are three types of kaparot, three types of rectification processes, and each one must be accompanied with the teshuvah. So we said, well, what are these three kaparot? We went into Masechet Yoma, which details it over there, and the short of the long is, even though that we detailed all four, tonight we're only going to focus on two. I like to do these reviews beforehand so we can understand, like come back to where we left off last week before we start today's lesson. So what are the four teshuvot processes? Well, if you transgress a mitzvah aseh and you do teshuvah, immediately, as soon as you do a proper teshuvah, immediately you're forgiven on the spot. And it's considered teshuvah shelema. So rule number one, if you make a sin with mitzvah aseh and you do teshuvah, immediately you're forgiven and it's considered a teshuvah shelema. However, if you are mitzvah lo ta'aseh, a negative commandment, what happens? You have to do a teshuvah process, and what it does is your teshuvah delays your punishment, and only when you get to Yom Kippur, it actually atones for the sin. So depending on what part of the year you're in, once you do teshuvah, what happens is, if there's supposed to be a punishment that comes, it delays the punishment because you did teshuvah, but to be forgiven for the sin, Yom Kippur has to go over you. The Day of Atonement has to pass over you for teshuvah. So that's the main distinction between mitzvah aseh and lo ta'aseh. We spoke about what happens when you do karet. We spoke about what happened when we do about Chilul Hashem. We're going to leave it off the shelf for today. We'll revisit it next week. Why? Let's stay focused on 248 and 365 today. Now, last week we drilled deeper and we saw that even though the teshuvah process for mitzvot lo ta'aseh is lengthier, it doesn't mean that it's more powerful. Meaning, I just told you, the mitzvah ta'aseh, all you have to do is teshuvah and you're completely forgiven. And then I told you that, no, I'm sorry, and then the Gemara tells us, TANYA tells us, that in order to do a teshuvah mitzvah lo ta'aseh, you have to do teshuvah and you have to wait for Yom Kippur. So just according to the teshuvah process, you're going to tell me, because it's lengthier, it looks like mitzvah lo ta'aseh is way more stronger. Because look how much more you have to do in order to be forgiven. We would think that that's the way that it would be. We would think that that is the way that it would seem. However, it's not that it's 248 verse 365. It's not that one is against the other. This one is stronger, this one is weaker. When we start to drill down into understanding the differences between a positive commandment and a negative commandment, we understand that they have two different roles. They have two different roles when a person is over on the mitzvot, when he transgresses. When a person transgresses a mitzvah ta'aseh, no, I'm sorry, let's do it like this. Let's start positive. When a person performs a mitzvah ta'aseh, he's able to draw a tremendous amount of light into his life. And then we said last week, don't give me no generic terms. I don't want to hear that there's a tremendous amount of light. What is this light that you speak of? I don't want to think about like FPL, that, you know, like if I do a mitzvah ta'aseh, all of a sudden the room is going to become brighter. Not that type of light. We're talking about spiritual light. So in order to understand this term, only because we said, if I'm going to say or, light, all the time, you have to understand what it means. Because otherwise you're just going to think it's like electricity. So we said light. It's a spiritual light. It's a spirit. When they say orot or a light, or lights, these are spiritual lights to represent spiritual abundance. Where does it come from? There's a place in the heavens called Ein Sof. This Ein Sof is actually a Kadosh Baruch Hu before the Tzimtzum, before the contraction, the constriction that he did in order to create this world. Meaning the original version of the never-ending Ein Sof spiritual abundance in the world, which is the source is Hashem. And from there, this spiritual light that we draw into our life when we perform a positive commandment travels these 10 different sefirot, 10 different worlds, spiritual worlds, whatever you want to call it. And then it comes into our life, into our world, and it comes directly into our neshama, which resides right here in the head, right here in the brain. So you have to imagine that we have from here like a string that goes all the way through all these heavens, all the way to the main source, which is where? Kisei HaKavod. That we said that all the neshamot of Am Yisrael, Hatzuvot mitachat Kisei HaKavod, they're all coming from one place, which is God's holy throne in the high heaven, in a place called Ein Sof, in the area where Ein Sof resides. So when next time that I say Or, in parentheses, it's everything that I just said. Or is all that. That's exactly where all that spiritual abundance is coming from. So when you do a mitzvah ta'aseh, what is the reaction? What does it yield? Spiritual abundance from that place straight into your neshama. That's when you perform a mitzvah ta'aseh. Now, when a person is so this is one thing about mitzvah ta'aseh. Okay, introduce me to positive commandments. Mitzvah ta'aseh, nice to meet you. What can you do for me? Oh, if you perform me, if you do a mitzvah ta'aseh, then you're going to be able to draw spiritual abundance from the Kisah Kavod, from Ein Sof all the way straight into your life. Oh, great! I want that. I want that. I'm a Ish Ruchani. I'm a spiritual person. I definitely need spiritual light, spiritual abundance. How do I draw this into my life? I perform positive commandments. How many are there? I want to perform more positive commandments. How many positive commandments are there? There's 248 ways to draw this light into your life. Okay, thank you. But there's another group. 365. Those are negative commandments. Lo ta'aseh. What happens when you perform, when you do a mitzvah lo ta'aseh? So it's a little bit more serious in the way that it damages the soul. And not only does it damage your soul, but it also damages the worlds above. So you can see that one thing is positive and the other one is negative. By performing mitzvah ta'aseh, you're able to draw spiritual abundance. By transgressing a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, you damage your neshama and you're damaging the worlds over there. So one thing you're drawing abundance, the other one you're destroying. So it's not like you can do which one is better, which one is worse. They're just two different things. They're two different pathways.
You said last time that it pokes a hole on the.
That's the vehicle. That's the mechanism.
Yeah, but if you do lo ta'aseh, it makes holes on the.
Correct.
Tubes.
I'm going to mention it over here as well. It's coming up, but it's correct. So we see that it's actually here. It's next. So when we learn about the mechanics, like Moshe just said, so how does it work? This spiritual abundance, right? This shefa, when we perform mitzvot aseh. So we said that there's 365 pipes. That when you do a mitzvah aseh, all the spiritual abundance comes down from these 365 pipes. However, when we do a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, when we sin, what happens to those pipes? They get punctured. They have holes in them. So what happens is, when you finally do a mitzvah ta'aseh, it's fine, great, the spiritual abundance is coming down. But since you already damaged those pipes, when that shefa comes down, it goes out from the holes. And what happens? The Sitra Achra takes that and it uses it. Which means that what? That there's a reality, there's a mitzvah that a person can do a mitzvah aseh, and he's empowering what? The dark side. Look how intricate. Look what we just learned in 2, 3, 4 lines of IGERET TESHUVAH, with of course with the help of Rav Yoram and Rabbi Sarah Bejer. Unbelievable things are happening up in the heaven. We thought it was just like, I perform mitzvah, okay, one thing I get a reward, one thing I get a candy, one thing I get a patch in the hand. No, what are you talking about? We're learning over here on a much, much higher level, much, much higher level. And it just goes to show you that it's so dangerous to puncture a hole in your pipeline, your spiritual shefa. Why? Because when you're finally doing good, when you're finally doing mitzvot, and you're finally like, okay, I'm ready to get elevated, I'm ready to take it to the next level, I'm ready to get a spiritual boost into my life. You know, think about it. When you have 365 pipes, you pour the water in. By the time they go down to 365 pipes with all these different holes, you're on the bottom with a cup. What's going to come down? A drop? 2 drops, 3 drops. You're expecting jugs. But what happens? Those holes, they get, the shefa gets hijacked. So in continuing to understand the 248 positive commandments and their power, when you perform or when you transgress, simply put, is when you perform a positive commandment, it draws down tremendous spiritual abundance from the source of Ein Sof, and it draws it to the main source of your soul. And when you do a teshuvah on those mitzvot, the teshuvah process is immediate and is considered complete teshuvah. However, when one transgresses on a positive commandment, right? That's one thing that we didn't go into so much. So, mitzvah taseh, thank you, I understand everything that it does for me. But when I don't do a mitzvah taseh, when I sin with a mitzvah taseh, what is the negative side to that? So the loss here is the loss of spiritual light, the loss of spiritual abundance. Imagine, you were supposed to get $1 million, now you didn't get $1 million. You were supposed to get all this spiritual light. Now you didn't get the spiritual light. It's a loss. You did experience a loss. You do have a loss. This loss, can you ever get it back? You went to close a deal, you lost $1 million, it's dead. Can you do teshuvah and get that spiritual abundance back? Now, before we move forward to tonight's lesson, which actually deals with that question, and also we move forward 2 more lines in the Tanya, I wanted to start familiarizing everyone with mitzvot aseh. When I tell you a positive commandment, what are they? So here's a couple of good tips. We just said that if I perform a positive commandment, what happens? All the spiritual abundance comes from the heaven. I want that as soon as I start my day. Can I get all the shefa to me as soon as I start my day? The answer is yes. Because if you go to a proper siddur, at the end of every shachrit, there's a section of supplications, things that you could say after you pray. One of the things that you could say after tefillah is called Eser Zechirot. What's Eser Zechirot? There are 10 things that we're commanded to remember every day. And you know what they are, each one? Mitzvat aseh, mitzvat aseh, mitzvat aseh. Imagine starting your morning every single day with 10 mitzvot aseh. 10 things that you just have to remember. And that's why the rabbis put it here in the siddur. Why? Go start your day. Start to draw your spiritual abundance early in the morning. I'll just read them to you. Here are 10 things that if you remember them on a daily basis, you are performing a mitzvah aseh, a positive commandment from the Torah, and you're able to draw from that spiritual abundance from Or and Sof all the way in the heavens. What are they? First of all, I'll read to you the text. L'shem Yehud Kudsha B'chu Shchinteh, Hareni Lekayem Mitzvat Eser Zechirot Shechayav Adam Lizkor B'chol Yom. Here are 10 things that a person must remember on a daily basis, and it's a mitzvah to remember it, and I'm about to perform it. Imagine performing 10 mitzvot in under 60 seconds. First one, Yetziat Mitzrayim. Every day when you remember the Exodus, the coming out of Egypt, it's a mitzvah. HaShabbat, every day that you remember Shabbat, it's a mitzvah. Yes.
What does remember entail? Like just thinking about it for a second, or what?
What's all you need?
Like,
Think about what happened in Egypt. So you say, the Jewish people were there, we were slaves. Moshe came, he saved us, and we get out. You remember Mitzrayim. If you learn deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper what Mitzrayim is, different things come into your head. It all depends on what level of understanding you are, what Mitzrayim activates in your mind. But it says over here, Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Exodus. We were slaves, Moshe came, he saved us by the hand of God, and we got out of Egypt. If you remember that, check mitzvah. Second one, Shabbat. Now it's interesting because the Chazal took care of that also. Because Beshir Shel Yom, what does it say in the Shir Shel Yom? Hayom Yom Shelishi Beshabbat Kodesh. Hayom Yom Revi'i Beshabbat Kodesh. So what do we say? We're remembering Shabbat every single day. Every time that we say Shir Shel Yom, the fact that we remember that it's the 4th day Beshabbat Kodesh, we're remembering Shabbat. But nevertheless, to remember Shabbat. Number 3, Haman, the heavenly food that came out from the heavens. Maaseh Amalek, the handiwork of the evil nation of Amalek and what they did to us in the desert. Ma'amad Har Sinai, the giving of the Torah on Har Sinai. Mashik Tzifu Avotenu LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Midbar Ufad Ba'egel. What our ancestors angered God in the desert, and specifically with the golden calf. Number 7. What Balak and Bilam wanted to do to the Jewish people against the advice that Hashem told them not to do it. Number 8, Maaseh Miriam HaNeviah. What happened with the story with Miriam, who was a prophet. ומצוות וזכרת את השם אלוקיך כי הוא הנותן לך כוח לעשות חיל. It's a mitzvah to remember that Hashem is the one that gives you the power to be successful in life, especially when you're making money. Chayil is to be successful in your handiwork. And the last one, וזכירת ירושלים תיבנה ותיכונן במהרה בימינו אמן. We have to remember that Jerusalem will eventually be built out, and we pray that it will be built out quickly and hurriedly in our days. Amen. There it is. We just performed 10 mitzvot aseh. Wow, look at all this spiritual abundance that's coming down right now. Okay, we start our days with this. Now, also, you should know, if you know each story of what these 10 remembrance are, you'll see that throughout, as you do it, different Torah concepts come into your mind, and it reminds you of certain things. I don't want to go to the that's a different lesson. I would like now to take an opportunity to teach you all the mitzvot aseh from Sefer Bereshit. You guys got a few hours? Okay. As a matter of fact, there's only 3. In the entire Sefer Bereshit, there's only 3 mitzvot. And I'm going to teach it to you, mitzvot aseh. So look, we learned 10. Already we learned 10. Weren't they easy? Shabbat, Man, Amalek, Balak, Bil'am. Hashem is the one that gives them the power to make money. Jerusalem is going to be built out. The Exodus, what Amalek did. It's easy, right? But at the end of the day, you can also just keep it in your Sidur. In Shachrit, you finish. You just say, I'm starting my day with already 10 mitzvot aseh. Like we said, there's a sefer called Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch is a book that counts all the positive and negative commandments. According to the Parsha, Baruch Hashem, we just started Parshat Shemot. So I'll give you a rundown. All of Sefer Bereshit has 3. Parshat Shemot, 0. Parshat Va'era, 0. Parshat Bo, that's when we start to have about 30 or 40. That has to do over there with Korban Pesach and all the different things with Mitzrayim we have to do. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But you can imagine that from the beginning up until 2 weeks from now, all the mitzvot that are in the Torah, there's about 6 of them. Let's start with the first one. The first mitzvat aseh, the first positive commandment in the Torah is Pirya v'Rivya, to procreate, to have children. And by the way, that's a positive commandment for men and not for women. It's a man's job to procreate. The woman is not obligated. A woman can totally go through her entire life without having a baby, and she didn't sin. She had no sin. She didn't refrain from performing a mitzvah aseh. As the woman is ezer kenegdo, she's the assistant of the man. She's the one that is there to help him perform all of his mitzvot. So of course you can see, just in the way that Hashem built the body of a woman, you can see that her purpose is to help a man perform that first mitzvah of Pirya v'Rivya. Second mitzvah in Sefer Bereshit is mitzvah milah, the mitzvah of circumcision. That's also only for the men. Third mitzvah in Sefer Bereshit, mitzvah mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Our first lo ta'aseh mitzvah in Sefer Bereshit, shelo le'echol gid hanashe. We're not allowed to eat the part of the animal that has the sciatic nerve. Okay? Finish. 3 mitzvot. The mitzvah number 4, 5, 6, and all the way maybe to like 30 plus is going to be in Parashat Parashat Bo. So here we were able to learn just by speaking about it nonchalantly, 10 mitzvot aseh from Sefer Zechirot. We learned all of Sefer Bereshit, that's only Pirya v'Rivya and Milah, having babies and circumcision. And we know that for everyone, we're not allowed to eat the part of the animal that has the gid hanashe. And there it is. And even if I want to go a little bit further, just to show you that you already know a lot, that you can go home knowing a lot, we can go to the 10 commandments, right? Lo tirtzach, don't kill, mitzvat lo ta'aseh. Lo tignov, don't steal, mitzvat lo ta'aseh. Lo tachmod, don't covet, mitzvat lo ta'aseh, right? Let's do some mitzvot aseh. Kabet avecha v'timecha, honoring your parents, positive commandment. Keep the Shabbat, positive commandment. Huh? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, right? Believing in God as being the only God. Mitzvah taseh. Every single second that you think of Hashem as the creator of the world, as your God, and there's the only God, and there's no other God, and that's it. Mitzvah taseh. So you can see that the spiritual abundance that we're talking about, the mitzvah taseh, is easy to draw down. Because even just thinking about it, you can start bringing it. But if you're not thinking about it, what happens? The system is in neutral. Nothing moves. But you can always have it running. You can always have the speed, the odometer, right? It's like constantly running. The meter is running. How? Machshava. Or just knowing the mitzvot aseh. Just the ones that are by thought, let alone for the ones that you can really perform. Okay, that catches us up fully from last week. Now we're going to start tonight's lesson. Baal Tanya picks up to say, אבל לעניין תשובה, אף שמוכלים לו העונש על שמרד במלכותו יתברך, ולא עשה מאמר המלך, it says, even though when it comes to teshuvah, even though that we forgive the individual, that he rebelled against the king of all kings, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and against the words of the king, mikol makom, ha'or nehedar, regardless, even though when he does the teshuvah process, the light is gone. The spiritual abundance is gone. Ve'en efsharut lashlimo yoter. And you can't bring it back. That light is gone. אלא אם כן, שב האדם בתשובה מאהבה. And here we're opening up a whole new link, right? All of a sudden we said, but there's no way back. That's it. That light is gone. He says, yes, the light is gone, unless you do a teshuvah me'ahava. So now, up until here, we said that there was two types of teshuvot: teshuvah del ela, teshuvah del tata. Now they're saying, okay, when it comes to teshuvah, let me open you up a new link, a new understanding. There's now a teshuvah me'ahava, and soon we'll see that there's also teshuvah mi'irah, coming back to God from the way of fear, and coming back to God from a way of love. What is the difference? So it begins to say, but teshuvah yeshnam shnei shlavim. There are two pathways to teshuvah. Teshuvah mi'irah, a teshuvah process, a rectification process that stems from fear. וזאת תשובה שיכולה רק למנוע את העונש. When a person comes back and does teshuvah because he says, I have to say I'm sorry to Kadosh Baruch Hu, I have to do a proper teshuvah process with the Creator because I'm scared. I don't want to die, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to become poor. All those things out of fear. I did something wrong, let me say I'm sorry and get back to my good graces with Abba Shemesh Shemayim. That's called the teshuvah mi'irah. A rectification process that stems from fear. The only thing that it serves is that shechola rak limnoat ha'onesh. It can only prevent punishment. אבל היא לא יכולה להחזיר את האדם לאור הראשון שהיה נתון בה קודם אחר. But that light that individual had, that spiritual glow that is invisible to us, but every person according to their level, that is gone. Because what happens, imagine, okay, we'll use the analogy of light. Imagine you're a very, very bright light. You sin, you dim. You sin more, you dim more. You sin more, you dim more. You sin more, you dim more. Until what? Until you're in complete spiritual darkness, right? Or when you are, performing mitzvot, your spiritual light is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, as they say in Hebrew. Tireu beorot. Ma ze beorot? The guy he's glowing, he's shining. You can see that he's like his spiritual light, his aura is very, very strong. So when a person does a teshuvah mi'irah, it pushes off, it prevents the punishment. But that spiritual light that he lost, remember, he was bright, he sinned, dimmed. I'm sorry. No problem. I mean, there's no punishment for what you did. There's no punishment. But what about my light? No, you're going to stay over here. That dim light, you stay over here. You can't get that light back. You can't turn it back on and make it light brighter. כי גם לאחר התשובה מיראה, האדם נמצא עדיין רחוק במרחק גדול מאוד מאוד מאותו אור זך ועליון. He says because after a person sins and that light is gone, you know how far away he is from his older self? You don't know how much spirituality, spiritual light you lost from one sin. You're so far away from it. You did teshuvah from mirah, okay, we're going to prevent the punishment from coming to you, which is also Baruch Hashem, right? However, that spiritual light, that spiritual level you're on, it's not coming back. In complete contrast to teshuvah me'ava, when a person says, no, I want to come back to Kadosh Baruch Hu because I love Hashem, I love the Torah, I love mitzvot, I sin, ruach shtut, something got into me. But I love being Jewish, I love the Torah, I love Kadosh Baruch Hu. I mean, the yirah is there. Of course I fear God. He's the creator, He's the king of all kings. He's the one that gives life and takes life away. Of course, how can you not fear that? But I'm on a different level. I already love God. I already love God. I do everything with simcha. You don't have to force me to go to shul. You don't have to force me in the morning to wake up to go to minyan. You don't have to force me to open up a gemara. You don't have to force me to come to a class. I look forward to it. I'm doing it out of love. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's what I live for. It's my, as it says in Tehillim, מה יפה תורתך כל היום משיחתי. That all day long, I can't get enough. Right? I speak to people, they're talking about, do you see? Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Misichati. Thank you. What you see, some people, they get together, you watch the game, you watch the guy, he dunked, he flipped, he 360. I look at them, you talking to me? What's the parsha? What's the first Rashi? Give me a chidush. What do you mean? Two different channels, two different frequencies, right? So when you're doing, like, when you love the Torah, it's a different thing. So okay, so even the guy who loves the Torah, since he fell, he wants to do teshuvah. What happens to that guy? teshuvah me'ava, זו תשובה גבוהה מאוד, שבה יכול האדם לזכות להשיב את אותו אור זך ועליון קדמותו. This guy here, when he says, I'm sorry, what happens? He's forgiven, and the light goes back up. He gets the light back. Teshuvah me'ava gives you your light back. Gives you the or that was lost from the sin, you get it back. To summarize, teshuvah mi'yirah, teshuvah me'ava. Teshuvah out of fear prevents you from getting punished, but you lost that spiritual light, it's not coming back. Teshuvah me'ava, when you do teshuvah out of love, you're forgiven, and your spiritual light that you lost comes back to you.
Teshuvah ve'ava also transforms the negative into positive things. Everything you did negative, all of a sudden transforms into positive.
The Gemara says, Hofech zdonot l'zchuyot. It takes whatever detriment you were in, whatever negative you were in, and it turns it into a positive. That's teshuvah me'ava. In our classes that we gave for Elul, for teshuvah, it says over there, it's zechuyot zdonot leshgagot v'zdonot lezchuyot. What's the difference? The Gemara tells us teshuvah mi'yirah takes the zdonot, the sins that a person did, and it turns them to shgagot, to sins that he did by mistake. And we know that sins that were done by mistake are forgiven. So if, let's say, you were under 1 million, I did it by mistake, Hashem says, no problem, you're back to zero. The other program is what? Your zdonot becomes chuyot. You're minus 1 million, you say to Hashem, sorry, teshuvah me'ava takes that negative 1 million and makes it positive 1 million. Here, the Baal Tanya takes us deeper. He's talking about different things. Again, you can see that this is he doesn't even use the concepts of teshuvah that we're used to. He doesn't use, he's talking about orot, talking about losing light, gaining light. It's a completely different terminology, lingo. It's a different channel. Continues to say, this was mind-blowing for me when I first read it. It says that the power of teshuvah mi'yirah, the power of teshuvah that is done out of fear, היא רק לדחות את הפורענות ולא לבטל אותה. It says all it does is whatever punishment that comes with that sin, it delays it. It doesn't get rid of it. Teshuvah me'ir'ah delays the punishment, doesn't get rid of it. Which contradicts a little bit of what we said. Let's see what he said. אבל רק לדחות אותה עוד פעם ועוד פעם. But you can keep delaying it over and over and over and over again. But it's still waiting for you. It's still waiting. You can push it off, push it off, push it off, push it off, but it's still waiting. אבל בשביל לבטל את הפורענות לגמרי, but if you want to cancel out the punishment, and to come back to that level where the neshama was when it originally left the kiseh kavod, from the day that it was born, what we said is the teshuvah delela, which is the incredible or atzum v'ne'erav, the incredible light that we're talking about. זה רק כאשר זוכים להגיע לתשובה מאהבה שנקראת תשובה שלמה. He says you can only get rid of the punishment when you do that teshuvah process out of love. Then it cancels out, and then you are considered a did teshuvah shelema. And by doing teshuvah shelema, you can also bring the neshama to the level where you can get returned back to the kiseh kavod the way that it came. From here we see that teshuvah me'ir'ah delays the punishment and gives you time. What are you supposed to do with that time? Get to teshuvah me'ahava. Get there, because it's waiting. You pushed it off, but it's waiting.
You can still do it. If you started with teshuvah yirah, you can still.
If you came in out of fear,
can still
it's
go
okay. It started some way, somehow. It doesn't matter. And the punishment for those things, it's right there. What do you have to do? No matter what, you have to get to the point of teshuvah me'ahava. You have to graduate to having that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you're able to do teshuvah me'ahava. Why? Because when you do teshuvah me'ahava, all those punishments that are waiting for you around the corner, poof, they disappear. Why? That's what makes it disappear. Yir'ah delays, pushes away, still waits. In order for it to completely go away, it's teshuvah me'ahava. By the way, we keep talking about the soul coming from the bottom of the chair of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kiseh Kavod, this throne of glory that's in the heaven, and our neshamot of the Jewish people is from the bottom of the chair. Anytime something sounds so outlandish and so weird, I like to dig a little bit more so I can know the mechanics of it, so I can at least understand it. Because I can't imagine myself coming from a chair, right? You imagine that there's a chair and I'm from there. What does it mean, right? So I dug, and I found. You know where I dug? Not too far. On the next page, the Rav gave it to us right over here. It's unbelievable, unbelievable about the journey of the soul from Kiseh Kavod. I want to share it with you. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about what happens when there's a soul, there's one soul, splits into two, one is the man, one is the girl, they come down to the heaven, they come down from the heavens, and eventually they meet up together and they become unified again, and soulmates as it's called. There's a lot to say about that part. I'm not talking about that. I'm going to skip that part. I'm talking about when the embryo is already in the womb of the mother. It says during that time, there's a candle that is lit over the head of the child. And it illuminates, it gives light, it gives an aura. And this light allows the baby, allows the child, allows the neshama, allows the person that's inside to be able to see from here to the end of the world. As it says, Mabit misof ha'olam v'ad sofo, which the last time that we heard this concept was in the creation of the world, when he said that there was Oreganuz, and Oreganuz was the special light that Adam HaRishon could see from here to anywhere in the world. Hey, what's going on in Hong Kong? No problem. Thinks about Hong Kong, you can see. Oh, what's happening in Timbuktu? Oh, no problem. You can go from one into. He was able to see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the future and he saw, there's going to be Reshaim in the world. There's going to be wicked people. There's a guy in Miami that's going to look into a high-rise penthouse in England, and he's going to say where Mr. Sir Charles hides his Rolexes and Mrs. Diana her diamond necklace, and he's going to get on a plane and he's going to go to the house and he's going to rob them. So he says that Reshaim are going to use this power for negative. No. I'm going to take this power, I'm going to take this ur, and it's ganuz. I'm going to save it for where? The end of time, in the time of Mashiach. Who's going to enjoy it? The tzaddikim. The tzaddikim are going to have this power once again. Hashem hid this power inside Torah learning and the Hanukkah candles. It's a few places where it's still accessible to us simpletons, right? That's where that light is. But similarly, that same night that we spoke about in the time of Hanukkah, Or HaGanuz, that's in the candles, and the same light that we speak about in the creation of Bereshit, in the time of creation that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created this light, Mebit Misof Olav V'ad Sofo, is the same type of light that the neshama of the unborn child has in the womb of the mother. Now, during these times when the neshama is in the womb, there's no better days for the neshama. It's its most ideal conditions. It's safe, it's sound, and it's on an extremely high spiritual level. Because at that moment, or during that time, while the neshama is in the womb, melamdim oto, meaning the ubar, the embryo, kol haTorah kula, the entire Torah is taught to that neshama. Furthermore, this entire Torah learning process eventually stops when an angel comes to the baby and tells them it's time for you to go into the world, and the angel that taught him all that Torah hits him right here, right under his nose, on this section that we have under our nose, on our lip, goes like this, and Mishakecho kol haTorah kula, and he forgets all of his learning. And before the child leaves the embryo, before leaves the womb of his mother, they make him swear. Mashbi'in oto. And what was the swear that they make this neshama swear? Tiyeh tzaddik v'al tiyeh rasha. We make the neshama swear to be righteous and not to be wicked. And continues to say, Va'afilu im kol ha'olam kulo mincha tzaddik, tzaddik ata, v'shata tzaddik, heyeh be'enecha kirasha. If the entire world tells you you're a tzaddik, and you really are a tzaddik, in your eyes, see yourself as being wicked. Ve'evei yodea, you should know, tamid teda she'akadosh baruch hu tahor u'mesharatav toharim. You should always know that Hashem is pure, His servants are pure, meaning the angels. Ve'neshama shenatan becha Torah, and the neshama that it's embedded in you is also pure. And it's your obligation to keep it pure. And if you keep it pure, good. And if you don't keep it pure, I'm going to take it away from you. Now, at this point, right before he releases them, he takes the neshama on a tour of two places, heaven and hell, Gan Eden and Gehenom. He takes him in the morning to take a tour of Gan Eden. And he shows them all the tzaddikim, all the righteous individuals that are sitting, honorable clothing, honorable ways, and they have all these crowns on their head. And the Malach tells them, you see all these people over here? These are neshamot that they were exactly like you in the womb of their mother. And after that, they came out into the world, and they did everything that Hashem told them. And after they came back, after 120 years, this is the reward that they got. Look at how they sit in honor and beauty and peace here in Gan Eden learning. And this is what they deserve. And if you merit, and you are going to keep the Torah and the mitzvot that Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded, you two will sit over here. On the second half of the day, he takes his neshama on the tour of Gehenom. And over there, obviously, it doesn't smell right, and it doesn't look right, and it doesn't feel right, and it's not as pleasant as Gan Eden. And even though that while they're in this place, people get hurt, but he's not going to get hurt, even though that he's touring it in the neshama. And the malach tells him, you see all these crazy things that you see over here, you see all these disgusting things that you see over here. He says these are neshamot that came into this world, and they didn't go in the way of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They ruined, they went against. And this is their punishment over here. And the neshama right now in the morning was in heaven, in the afternoon it was in hell. You can imagine that type of experience, right? Goes back into the room of his mother. And then at that moment, after that tour, there are two angels that are now watching over the uban so the mother doesn't miscarry. And the malach comes and teaches him Torah up until the day that he's supposed to be born. Up until the day he's supposed to be born. On the day of his birth, that angel comes to him again and he tells him, Tiyeh tzaddik v'al tiyeh rasha. He says, remember what I showed you. I showed you Gan Eden and I showed you Gehenom. Tiyeh tzaddik, be righteous. Don't be wicked. You already saw the outcome of what happens. At that moment, the neshama refuses to come out of the womb. That's why in pregnancy, it's like a war inside. He doesn't want to leave. He says, no, I like it here. The yeshiva is inside. The food is good. It's always delicious. And I don't have to wait. It's all connected. And the angel tells him, no. He says, there's no such thing. You have to get out right now. Al kochecha tanolad, al kochecha tamet. He says, whether you like it or not, you have to be born. You have to die. And whether you like it or not, you're going to have to give us an accounting, din v'cheshbon, in front of the Melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the end of days. And the angel hits him on his lip, and he forgets everything that he learned, and that candle that was over his head gets extinguished, and the child comes out in the world. And it's no surprise that the first thing that the child does when he comes out of the womb is what? Wouldn't you cry after that experience? Right? He says, he just had incredible spiritual sustenance in the womb of his mother. And in 1 second, he's out, and now he's got to start from scratch. That's why the rabbi gives us over here a tip. He says, let me give you an ironclad rule. Let shamoach shalit ala lev. Let the mind be in control of the heart. Velo latet af pa'am lalev lishtot. Never let the heart control you. Let the mind be controlling of the heart. He says, siman ra le'adam sha'alev sholet alav. It's a very, very bad sign for a person where his heart is controlling him.
Why?
I'll tell you in a second. Adam tzarich lada'at sha'alev hu chashuv. Everybody needs to know that the heart is important. אבל הוא לא העיקר. It's not the main thing. אלא העיקר הוא המוח שמכתיב ללב. That the mind tells the heart what to do. And he says furthermore, he says, המוח צריך להיות ישר כמו סרגל. And the mind needs to be straight like a ruler. אסור שתהיה לאדם עקימות המוח. A person shouldn't have like these crooked ways of thinking. והמוח צריך תמיד להישאר קר. You have to be cool thinker, cool-minded. והלב צריך להיות חם, and the heart needs to stay warm. He says, אם הלב מתקרר, if the heart becomes cold, it's a sign שהמערכות אצל האדם מתחילות לקרוס, that the systems are starting to crash on the person. ואם המוח מתחמם, and if the mind gets heated, המצב לא טוב, and the situation is very bad, והאדם מתחיל לאבד שליטה, and a person starts to lose control. The heart is emotions, desires, everything that has to do with the physical. The mind is the spiritual, and everything that has to do with chokhmah and control. they say, I saw it brought somewhere else in a midrash, that there's several body organs that control a person. It's moach, lev, v'kaved. The liver, the heart, and the mind. He says if the mind controls the heart, and which controls the liver, which basically means that the mind controls the emotions and the desires, because that's what's coming from those body parts, then it's Rashi Tevot, moach, lev, kaved, Rashi Tevot, melech. He's a king. He's a king. But if you go the opposite way, if the kaved, the lev, and the moach, if the body and the heart and the desires control the mind, it's chaf lamed mem. You're klum. You're nothing.
In Modani we do that. In Melech, chai, and chai is chayan yachida. When you say that, you bring down shefa to that.
Correct. That's when you're trying to bring those two very hard pieces of neshama to bring down. So we see that you can either be a melech, you can be a king, controlling your mind, the mind that controls your heart, your desires, your actions, then you're a king. Or you can be klum, nothing, when your actions and your heart control the mind. And that's what he's saying over here, that a person, and when is there telltale signs that you start to crash? He says what? When your heart starts to be cold and you don't care about people, you're in a bad situation. When your mind starts to get heated and you start to get angry, you're in a bad situation. Two signs to letting you know that the system is out of whack. That was one line of Tanya. Second line of Tanya. V'cha'amur.
Klum is nothing, but kalem is destruction. So determination. So it could actually not be neutral. It could actually be very detrimental. It can destroy you.
Hazak. Very good. וכמאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, הפסוק מעוות לא יוכל לתקון. So over here, Baal Tanya is bringing Gemara, Masechet Brachot, on the 26th page on the first side. That there's a pasuk that says in Kohelet, Ma'avet lo yachol litkon. Somebody who ruins can't fix. Somebody who bends or ruins, he can't fix. And what is that? So the Gemara gives us it says, okay, Kohelet, Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man to ever live, says that when somebody makes a mistake, he can't fix it. What is that? So it gives us, he says somebody who didn't do Kriyat Shema Shel Arvit, he ruined it, he can't fix it. Time passed, he can't do it anymore. It's something that was lost and lost forever. Tiken, that was the example that was given. Continues to say,
Chapter 1.
דאף שנזהר מעתה לקרוא קריאת שמע של ערבית ושחרית לעולם, אין תשובתו מועלה לתקן מה שביטל פעם אחת. He says, and even that individual that missed one קריאת שמע של ערבית, he can't fix it, because even if he takes it upon himself, that from now on and forevermore, I will never miss a Shema shel Arvit, and I will never miss Shema shel Shachrit. I will never miss the nighttime Shema or the daytime Shema. You know what it says about him? Le'olam en teshuvato mo'elet. His teshuvah is worthless. Letaken ma shebitel pa'am achad. I'm not worthless. I'm sorry. It does not help. Le'olam en teshuvato mo'elet letaken. His teshuvah is not able to rectify for that one time that he missed it. You know what I like about Baal Tanya? He doesn't give any discounts. You know, he's very, very harsh. When he says what he says, it's like cut, dry, bli hummus, bli tchina. It's like dry. It's not like he doesn't play around. That's it. You lost it. You can't fix it. Eat it. Wow. What are you going to do with that? Because naturally, because we're humans and we sin, and we try to sin as least amount as possible. But even when we sin, we like the way back. We like to be able to bring back what we lost. We don't like to be losers. We want to win. I know I lost. Can I get it back? So he brings over here from the Gemara that says you can't even bring it back. However, it says, התשובה לא יוכל לתקן את הנזק שנעשה ביטול מצוות עשה אחת. He says that the teshuvah does not have the power to rectify for the damage that is caused by not performing a positive commandment. Because the teshuvah process cannot complete that lost spiritual abundance that was lost. And he actually, by not performing it, he also caused the worlds, the upper worlds in the heavens, to lose that spiritual light as well. So over here, I'd like to say, what are these upper worlds, right? All these upper worlds, constantly saying about upper worlds, olamot, olamot, olamot. I'm working on it. Probably in 2 lessons from now, we'll have a very, very good explanation of olamot. But just so you understand that you are affecting, when you're transgressing on a positive commandment, your soul, the upper worlds, and your soul loses that spiritual abundance, and the upper worlds also lose that spiritual light. But the only way to bring it back for yourself and to rectify and to fix those upper worlds is teshuvah me'ava. So here we're not losers. We're going to win. We can bring it back. How do you bring it back? Teshuvah me'ava.
Can you do it with the Shema or not?
Huh?
Can you do that with the Shema for our beat or no?
So the Shema is no. The Shema of the
It says no.
it's gone. But the teshuvah that you do on it, the teshuvah that you the light of, so again.
I'm confused.
So here we are. You have a mitzvah aseh. You have to do a Shema of Arvit. Bizmana. You went to sleep at 4 in the afternoon. You didn't wake up till the next day 9 a.m. You missed the entire night. Where's the Shema of the night?
Gone with the wind.
Okay, that's it. Gone. There goes the light. There goes the mitzvah. Oh, but I want it back. I want it back. I do teshuvah. But what kind of teshuvah? But you know me. I love you. You know that I love the Torah. I was this. I was that. Please, I'm doing teshuvah me'ava. That I will not miss on one thing. Teshuvah me'ava. Okay, the light is back, and there's no punishment.
Okay.
The teshuvah me'ava brings it back. We're trying to understand where's the kohot, where's the powers, right? Because we were thinking that because of the teshuvah process being longer for mitzvah lo ta'aseh, we're saying that mitzvah ta'aseh is shorter. It's like no, learn it separately. So we said when we perform the mitzvah, look what happens. All this abundance comes in, all this abundance comes down. But when you don't do a mitzvah, what happens? Light goes away. There is a loss. What's the loss? Your spiritual light dims. It goes away. No, I don't want to lose that. I want to bring it back. There's no bringing it back. Unless you do, teshuvah me'ava. Teshuvah me'ava, you can bring it back.
Fine.
It's steps. It's like you have to literally go from step to step to connect the dots until you get it. That's why we're going very slow. That's why I'm being very repetitive. Because if we don't connect the dots, then you just, at one time, you're just going to tune me out. It's going to sound like white noise. Yes.
I believe that this concept might take a person to do the mitzvah out of fear and not out of love, because the fear of not doing it because you lose a light or that you do the mitzvah out of love, so then you can do the teshuvah out of love, but the mitzvah per se might be done for the wrong reasons.
So you have to have both. When we start our tefillah, we say L'Shem Yichud Kul Shabichu B'Shchiteh B'Dechilu Rechimu Urechimu Dechilu. That's in Aramaic. What does it mean? Dechilu is fear. Rechimu is love. And then we switch it. Urechimu Dechilu. Then with love and with fear. So we do our Hashem, I'm coming to pray to you out of fear and love, and out of love and fear. Why do we say that? Because first of all, they go hand in hand. If you're a parent, if you're a child, you can't be all love. If the kid doesn't fear you, they're going to step all over you. You got to have a child has to have a fear of a parent. A citizen has to have fear of the police, of the government, of the king. It's a relation that must happen. There's no such thing as only love. Only love is not healthy. You have to have love and fear. Because the way life is, if it's all love, there's going to be a distortion of reality. So there are going to be things that, yeah, of course I fear God. He's the one that gives me the breath that I'm taking right now. He has the power to give life and to take life. Of course I have fear. He has that power. But even though that he has that power, I'm also able to develop a relationship with him throughout the years, through learning, through praying, through being a Jew, through Shabbat, through Hagim, through personal experiences, that God, I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the thing, for what he did for me in the past, for what he's doing for me in the present, for what he's going to do for me in the future, for all the chesed that He's been giving to me every day, and the fact that I have a relationship with Kadosh Baruch Hu. You know, once you do that, you will understand that you're able to fear and love at the same time. They go hand in hand, not either or. The question is, what drives you to do the mitzvah? If it's out of fear, Baruch haba, no problem. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up out of fear. If it's out of love, wow, pro level. You're already there doing out of love. Regardless of what it is, you have to come to the table because we have a third section, people that don't do nothing at all.
Right.
So it's 0,
Yeah.
fear, love. Where are you? If 0 is not an option, you're already on a very high level. If it's out of fear, that's okay. It pushes away the yirah. It pushes away the punishment. It gives you a chance to grow and develop the relationship that you'll have love of God. Once you get to the love of God, that's the happy place. That's where you want to be. Where you're connected to Hashem and you're living life. You're walking with God. Furthermore, to crystallize the question that you just had, how do you know when you have the love for God? How do you know that you were able to do teshuvah me'ahava? What is going to be the sign? I'm there. Right? Because each one has a different sort of barometer. Oh, I love God because I give 50 cents every morning for tzedakah. That's my love. Or, oh, everybody chooses their level. Chazal tell us, Yoram Michael Abijal brings it over here also. He doesn't give any discounts either. Unbelievable. He says, you know how you know you got to the level of teshuvah me'ahava? Look what he says. When it comes to the rega b'chaim, when it comes to that point in life, that you're able to let go of everything that you have, your business, your family, your belongings, anything, whether your home or everything that's inside of it, just like Avraham Avinu did, in order to bring teshuvah me'ahava, this is what the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achad. When you get to the point where nothing matters just so you're right in the eyes of God, that's teshuvah me'ahava. But as long as you're still not willing to give up everything in your life just to do the right thing in the eyes of God, you're a work in progress. Which is okay. Which is okay. A work in progress is okay because Hashem takes everything into consideration. That you're trying, we get so much credit just for hishtadlut, or for the desire, for the ratzon that we want. But anybody who's taking their life serious and eventually wants to get to that point, you can say that there are people that all they care about is to do the right thing in the eyes of God. And it doesn't matter what is in the way. Family, children, business, personal belongings, expensive, not expensive. It doesn't matter. What is right in the eyes of God? When you do that, when you get to that point, this is now, you got to the point of yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achad. And even if you're able to reach that moment, even one time in your life, they say, check, you got there. The Gemara says, yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achad. There's some people that are able to get to that. Why? Because there's somebody who's wicked his entire life, but for some reason he just had a wake-up call, such a wake-up call, and he did such an incredible teshuvah process that he was able to get to this level in a split second, even though he was wicked his entire life. And almost ended up this guy straight to Olam Haba, but he was wicked his entire life. Yeah, but he got to the point that he's willing to give up everything for Kadosh Baruch Hu, kanat olamo b'sha'ah achad. But obviously, not everybody's like that. We're not looking for anomalies. We're not looking for a person, only one out of a million that can be successful. We're looking for run-of-the-mill teshuvah process, right? Regular people. What do regular people do? Slow and steady wins the race. Slowly but surely we get there. We do one teshuvah at a time, one mitzvah at a time, one lesson at a time, one understanding at a time. We fall, we get up. We fail, we succeed. We fall, we get up. We fail, we succeed. It's a journey. And Hashem takes everything into consideration. And eventually you do get there. And eventually Hashem takes into consideration everything. Your ishtadlut, your ratzon, your machshavot, your maaseh, your failures, your successes. The time that you were right there, the time that you were very far away, He takes that all into consideration. But be in the fight. We got to be in it to win it. right? Like I remember when I lived in New York, everybody used to play lotto. And you say, they say all you need is $1 and a dream, right? Why? Because they wanted to take the dollar from the person to play. Why? Because if you have $1, you're in it, right? You're invested. That's the whole thing. Just be invested, even if it's one thing that you're saying, I'm working on one thing, on one mitzvah. I'm working on my midah, my kas. I'm working on my waking up in the morning for shul. I'm working on having derech eretz with my wife, with my children, with my friends. I'm working on being honest at work. You know, it's not. A lot of people are failing when, like people like when it comes to like going to make a living. You know, a lot of people say, I want to make a straight living. Oh, straight living, $15 an hour. Crooked living, $55,000 a month. What? They look at the things, but and then I tell you, well, I have to support my family. I have to do this, I have to do that. Yeah, but there's an honest way. An honest way, $15 an hour. Well, what am I going to come home with? I'm going to be struggling my whole life. Look at this. I work 2-3 months. I can put a down payment on a house. But it's crooked. It's okay. I'll give tzedakot. You understand? Hashem tests the individual. That's your test. So some people are fighting. No, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight on making an honest living. There's a lot of people right now struggling with parnasa. They're failing because they're going into crooked businesses because they feel like they got to support their family. It's not so easy. So Hashem doesn't expect you to do everything one shot, but you work on one thing at a time, and you're able to do a teshuvah me'ira if necessary, and eventually graduate to teshuvah me'ava. Next line in Tanya. והעובר על מצוות לא תעשה, על ידי שנדבק הרע בנפשו, אוסף גם למעלה. It says when a person performs a negative commandment, all of a sudden something negative clings on to his soul because he damaged something in the upper worlds. So we see already negative commandments are trouble. We want to stay away from it. And as it says, שעושה פגם למעלה בשורשה ומקור חוצבה. It says, you know where that damage is? When a person does a mitzvat lo ta'aseh, he transgresses. Hashem says, don't do this, right? Don't kill, don't steal. And the guy does it anyways. What happens? His neshama. And the source of his neshama, in kisah kavod, gets damaged. בשורשה ומקור חוצבה של נשמה. והוא פגם נורא מאוד. And we spoke about the Rav Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, that told us that our neshamot come from Kisei HaKavod, and that's where we get all our powers. So when a person damages that, how are you going to draw? You're damaging the source of all your shefa. Here, the rabbi put things into, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladi put over here things in parentheses, and he dives into a deep Kabbalistic concept. I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to tell you that he mentions that there is spiritual clothing that go through the 10 emanations, the sfirot, as it's written in the Zohar, and it damages it. Okay, basically he gives us the pathway of what the damage happens between the chair, the 10 emanations, the 10 sfirot, up into the neshama, and then it comes to the part that says lechach en kapara lenafsho velo lemala ad yom HaKippurim, and he says that's why when a person transgresses on a mitzvot la'aseh, there is no atonement for his soul until he reaches the Day of Atonement, until he reaches Yom HaKippurim. כמו שכתוב וכיפר על הקודש בתרומות בני ישראל פשעיהם, because the pasuk says that that's the specific day where everybody gets atoned for their sins. Here the Rav went a little bit on a tangent on look what a gift it is to just show up to shul on Yom Kippur. Just the fact that the day goes over a person, it atones. Meaning, Yom HaKippurim itself, just think about it, the Day of Atonement, right? What do you think happens on the Day of Atonement? You get forgiven. Yeah. It's like you have a shoe store. What do you think you're going to get in the shoe store? Shoes, right? You're going to go now to a pizza store. What are you going to get? Pizza. Day of Atonement. What are you going to get? Atonement. You're going to get kapara, slicha. So what happens? Just that day going over the person is kapara. However, for that person that sinned throughout the year, it's like lo ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh, lo ta'aseh, punishment, 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 punishment. But he woke up. He says, Abba, I'm sorry. I know I didn't do. I know I had a rough Kislev. I had a rough Nisan. I sinned. So what he says? Okay, he did teshuvah. All the punishment, wait over there in the corner. Now what happens? So let's just say he did it in Nisan. Up until Kippur, you have 6 months. What happens? If during those 6 months you transgress again, what do? You bring them out from the corner. Come, let me add more to you. Let me tie more punishment to you. Let me add. If not, if you were good from the time you did teshuvah up until Yom Kippur, comes Yom Kippur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells all those punishments come and poof, they disappear. He did teshuvah, Yom Kippur mekaper. So just the fact that you go to shul, it atones. But anybody who did a teshuvah on mitzvot lo ta'aseh gets rid of all those punishments. They get deleted. So I'll conclude with one last midrash, because we see that Yom Kippurim is a very powerful day. My question is, why Yom Kippurim? What's the big deal with Yom Kippurim? We got it like it's such a gift of a day, a day that Hashem chose that we're able to be forgiven. Why Dafka Hashem gave us this day like a gift? Besides the typical understanding that we had of Moshe Rabbeinu that went up to the heavens and came down, and finally the third time he came down on Yud Bet Tishrei, which when Hashem says Salachti Kedvarecha, and he came down with the second set of Luchot, and because Hashem forgave us on that day, so the spiritual energy of that day is forgiveness. So that's what we pray on Yom Kippur. Besides the Torah commands us on Yom Kippur la'anot nafshotechem. So it's a day that we were commanded to be to fast, and a day of atonement. Baal Tanya is not going to give us that. He's not going to give us that. That's a different book. That's a different channel, different frequency. Even Rav Yoram over here, he's going to take us in. He's going to give us a lot of different reasons, a lot of different layers of why things are happening. So he here brings Rav Yoram Michael Avajeh Zechet Tzadik Livracha brings over here Tana Debe Eliyahu. He brings over here a midrash that says that the reason why we have the gift of Yom Kippurim is because of Avraham Avinu. Did you ever hear that? That we got Yom Kippurim because it's a gift from Avraham Avinu? Good. So you heard something new tonight. Listen to this. There's a conversation between God and Avraham. And Hashem tells Avraham Avinu, Ata amata ba'asara nisyonot. You were able to withstand 10 trials. Lachen ani eten labanim shelcha matana. Because you were able to withstand 10 trials, I'm going to give you children's a gift. What's that gift? Et aseret yemet teshuvah. Because you were able to withstand the 10 tests, I'm going to give them the 10 days of aseret yemet teshuvah. Yom keneged yom nisayon. Every nisayon, they got a day. However, keneged the nisayon asiri, but your 10th trial, which was the Akedat Yitzhak, I'm going to give them Hayom Ha'adir B'Shana, the greatest day of the year. I'm going to give them Yom Kippurim. And not only that, most of the Mefarshim hold the Akedat Yitzhak happened when? Yom Kippurim. That's why in our tefillah we have Oked ve'hanekad ve'amizbeach. Why do we sing that? Because it happened on that day. Why do we sing about Akedat Yitzhak? It happened on Yom Kippurim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them on that 10th one, that's why I'm going to give it to him as a big gift on Yom Kippurim. Furthermore, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Avraham Avinu, Da'alecha, that I'm giving this, he says, I want you to know that I'm giving this day to you and to your children as a complete gift from generation to generation. What kind of a gift? Yom Mechila V'Slicha. It's a gift. Because of you. Because of Akedat Yitzchak, I'm going to give you children a gift. One day that is going to be for Mechila V'Slicha, for forgiveness, for atonement. Strictly because you passed this incredible test of Akedat Yitzchak. because it says over there, the Akedah, what does it say in Akedat Yitzchak? What is the famous pasuk? He says, I told you, when your son was tied up on the altar, what did I tell you? Al tishach yadecha alanav v'al ta'aseh lo me'umah. He says, don't raise your hand on the child and don't touch him. Don't do nothing to your child. So he says, midah keneged midah. Just like I told you, don't touch your child, nothing will happen to him. Every single one of your children that comes to shul on that day, I will actually make this happen as a reality. Don't do nothing to him. What a power of Yom Kippurim, just to show up to shul. Just to show up to shul. Don't do nothing to him. And I will not punish him. I will not punish him. I will forgive him for all his sins just for showing up. In your merit, Avraham Avinu, because of Akedat Yitzchak. I always say Akedat Yitzchak, it's the opening scene of our tefillah every morning. You know what it is? It's a no-limit credit card. Every day we pass that card. Nothing. Every day. Kol boker. Hashem Akedat Yitzchak. Hashem Akedat Yitzchak. Yom Kippurim. Akedat Yitzchak. Akedat Yitzchak. No limit. וכן מצינו ביום הקדוש ברוך הוא התרצה למחול שלוח עם ישראל על חטא העגל. And even on that day we see that Hashem forgave the Jewish people even for the sin of the golden calf. As it says, סלחתי בדבריך. There's one little add-on. There's a famous Kabbalist, Rabbeinu Yaakov Chaim. Rabbeinu Yaakov Chaim Sofer, in his book Kaf HaChaim, also brings, by way of the Midrash, that Avraham Avinu was very special because he was from the beginning of time. There were 20 generations before him. From Adam HaRishon to Noach, 10. From Noach up until Avraham, there was another 10. Avraham was generation 21. He says, Avraham Avinu, you're the one that started the 21st generation. What is the numerical value of 21 in letters? Chaf, Aleph. That's Chaf is 20, Aleph is 1. Your generation number 21 from Adam HaRishon. He says, that's why I'm also going to give your children a gift the 21st day of Tishrei. What is the 21st day of Tishrei?
Yom Kippurim.
Hoshana Rabbah. Yom Kippurim is number 10. 11 days after Yom Kippurim, the 21st day is Hoshana Rabbah. Because also we said in the Teshuvah season, what's Hoshana Rabbah? We say if you start from Rosh Chodesh Elul to do all the Selichot, and you do Tishrei with all the Chagim up until Hoshana Rabbah, Nun Aleph is 51. From Rosh Chodesh Elul up until Hoshana Rabbah is 51 days. But if you come from Tishrei, the 21st day of Tishrei is Hoshana Rabbah. Shezeh Yom Miyuchad. It's also another special day. שבו יוכלו לכפר את כל עוונותם לפני שהפתקים של גזרי הדין נמסרים. He says that's the day that they can get atoned before the tickets go out to the angels, before they're dispatched. Because that's the time where שיש בו את החותם החיצון. יום הכיפורים, there's the internal signature. Hoshana Rabbah is the external signature, as it's called. So we see in the mentor of Avraham Avinu, we got, because of his 10 trials, we got Yom Kippurim to atone for the children, for Am Yisrael, and in addition to that, because he was the 21st generation, we get the 21st day of Tishrei, which is not only like Yom Kippur that we're forgiven, but even before the stamp goes out and the angels are dispatched, they're able to be forgiven as well. That's why Hoshana Rabbah is such a big day. And I'll leave it here. Just want to summarize. Asikum. Don't. Well, I'll read the. Yes.
Sukkot is the 15th. The 7th day would be 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's the 7th day of Sukkot. Is that not true? So the 20th day of Sukkot would be Hoshana Rabbah, 21st day would be the 7th day. But then Shemini Atzeret.
I'll do it with you after if you don't mind.
7th day, okay. So the 7th day, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You're right.
Okay. In conclusion, the Admor, as Zaken says, I'll read the last line. ולכן אין ללמוד מכאן שום כולה חס ושלום במצוות עשה ובפרט בתלמוד תורה. He says, now that we looked a little bit deeper to the 248 positive commandments, don't make light of it. Don't make light of the 248. The loss of the immense spiritual abundance is not to be taken lightly. This or that you lose, you taking that lightly? לכן אין ללמוד מכאן שום כולה חס וחומר במצוות עשה ובפרט בתלמוד תורה, and especially in Torah learning. What does that have to do with anything? He just told us all mitzvot aseh. Why did he throw in there especially Torah learning? So he says, ואדרבה, דאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, הקדוש ברוך הוא על עבודה זרה, אף שהם כיתות מיתות בית דין, ולא ויתר על ביטול תלמוד תורה. He says that even though that Hashem was able to forgive on a lot of different things that a person did, like karet and all these special punishments of beit din, there's one thing that Hashem is not mevatel, he doesn't forgo, is a person who is mevatel Torah. Somebody who doesn't learn Torah when he could learn Torah. What is he saying over here? He says, don't make light of a mitzvah aseh, especially of Torah learning, because Torah learning is equivalent to kol ha-mitzvot kulam. If you take all the mitzvot, all 613, and you put it in one bundle over here, and I put this book here, it's the equivalent. Learning Torah is keneged all 613. So now we're learning about the lights and the abundance and the pipes and the oh my God. Don't forget that all that is not even equivalent to a person learning Torah. So could you imagine something? Because it's like as if the Rav was trying to tell you, you're swimming, you're out there, you're in the ether, you're thinking about all the orod, the shefa, ur and sof, all this thing, and you're like, come back. All that. Be careful not to levatel a little bit of Talmud Torah, because Talmud Torah keneged kulam has the equivalent value of all the mitzvot that we're discussing over here. So imagine all the shefa that we're talking about. How much shefa is here when you open up one page, one Rashi, one Tosfot, one learning Torah, or even the fact that we're learning here the Tanya together. Next week we're going to move on to the next two parts of Karet and Chilul Hashem. As a matter of fact, this particular class is not going to happen for 2 weeks. We'll come back in 2 weeks because I have a business trip and then we have yeshiva week. So only in 2 weeks we'll come back to this.
3 weeks. So 2 weeks up, the next week after, right?
Yeah. It's the 3 Thursdays from now we'll come back from here. Okay? So right now just digest 248, just digest all that, and Be'ezat Hashem Bli Neder, when we come back, we'll move on to the Kirtut that he talks about. But if you want to know how much we did so far, 5 lines of Tanya. Baruch Hashem. 5 lines of Tanya. Baruch Hashem. Tov, Hashem Baruch Hashem, Sameach Otem. Thank you for listening.